Biographers of St. John of God have long questioned an event from his childhood. When John was 8, a man claiming to be a traveling priest stopped at the home of his parents, Andrew and Teresa, in Montemoro Novo, a poor farming town near Évora in Portugal. John's family lived simply. They owned a few sheep and worked a small plot of land. They had no influence or protection. One morning, the stranger was gone, and John was gone with him. His parents had no one to ask for help. Later accounts soften the story. Some say the priest told tales of life on the road that stirred the boy's desire to travel. John begged to go along, and the priest agreed out of kindness. This version raises doubts. The man never asked John's parents. He later left the child with strangers in Oropesa, a town in Spain about 60 miles west of Toledo, and disappeared. John never saw him again. The account strains belief. John was likely taken by force and possibly abused. The loss crushed his parents. Months later, John's mother died. Neighbors said grief broke her heart. His father then gave up the farm and joined the Franciscan community as a lay brother. In Oropesa, John lived safely. His foster father worked for the local count as an estate manager. John, familiar with shepherding, watched over the count's flocks. The family treated him as a son. His foster father was devout and taught John to pray 24 Hail Marys each day in honor of the Virgin Mary. As John neared adulthood, restlessness set in. Estate work felt dull. He wanted action. When Charles V went to war with France, John enlisted. At 22, he tried to prove himself among hardened soldiers. He adopted camp habits. He swore freely, gambled, drank heavily, and visited prostitutes. In that era, swearing often combined crude language with sacred names, which made the offense more serious. John's military service ended in disgrace. Assigned to guard stolen goods, he left his post. Some of the loot vanished. Officers wanted him executed. A senior commander intervened. John received a dishonorable discharge and was sent away. The shame marked the first stage of his conversion. Like in Oropesa, John still sought excitement. He also began to think about serving God. He traveled to Ceuta in Morocco, recently taken by Spain, intending to help ransom Christian captives. There he met a destitute Portuguese family and chose to support them. He took work building fortifications. The workforce included convicts. Overseers beat anyone they judged lazy. Some prisoners escaped by fleeing to Muslim territory and converting to Islam. John befriended one convict who abandoned the faith to gain freedom. John became convinced he bore some blame. The thought tormented him. He confessed his fear to an elderly Franciscan chaplain. The priest saw excessive guilt and corrected him. He said the man alone chose his path, and that John's self-blame masked pride. Judging the situation harmful to John's spirit, the priest ordered him back to Spain. In Spain, John drifted through temporary work. He settled in Granada and opened a small shop selling religious books and images. The business did modestly well. Neighbors viewed him as honest and devout. John remained fixated on his sins. In January 1537, John of Avila preached in Granada on the feast of Saint Sebastian. His reputation drew large crowds. John attended during the sermon. A piercing cry filled the church. John screamed for mercy, staggered through the crowd, and ran into the streets. He struck his chest, tore his hair, and shouted that he was damned. After days of this behavior, authorities confined him to an asylum. John of Avila visited him there. He spoke firmly and told John to stop the frenzy. If John wanted to please God, he needed useful work. After his release, John found work close at hand. Granada lacked enough hospitals and shelters. John rented a house and turned it into a hospital for the poor with 46 beds. No one helped him at first. His recent breakdown frightened people away. John did everything himself. He cared for patients, cooked, cleaned, washed clothes, and gathered firewood. To supply the hospital, he begged in the streets with a basket, calling people to give for the love of God. Over time, the city began to trust him. Donors contributed food and supplies. Doctors and nurses volunteered their services. John expanded his efforts. He opened shelters for the homeless, aided the elderly, placed orphans with foster mothers, and found work for the jobless. The hospital stayed central. A regular group of helpers served there. Church leaders gave them a religious habit. They urged the founder to take the name John of God. Near the end of his life, John wrote to a young man about nursing the sick. He said the work demanded more effort than expected. He promised consolation in serving God through the poor. Urhed, self-sacrifice, constant awareness of God, and love above all things.